What if your greatest success made you miserable? What if everything you believed in, your heroes, the glamour of fame, and your worldview was falling apart? Following the breakup of the greatest band in the world, its founder John Lennon faced this question head-on, and it all started in... Following these events, John Lennon and Yoko Ono had undertaken a controversial form of treatment known as primal scream therapy under the direction of its founder, Arthur Janov. This therapy urged the patients to dig deep into their memories to find repressed trauma, and have it expressed as primal screams. Janov's belief was that these outbursts would remove the weight of repressed traumas. Beginning for 3 weeks in London and relocating to Los Angeles for 4 months, John relived the struggles of his youth and tore out his voice screaming. The anger and fear that engulfed him during those times was now manifested. With these unresolved feelings brought back to the forefront of his mind, John channeled his emotions into self-revelatory songs, writing lyrics and composing throughout the rest of the year. While the breakup of the band and the dissolution of his closest friendship brought John great pain, it also gave him something he had never been given before: absolute creative freedom. No longer did he have to share the spotlight with Paul or abide by the rules and tastes of his producer. He was now able to express himself as raw, as ugly, or as beautiful as he really was. And with this newfound independence, he also believed it was time to break away from the person he once was by making a full-fledged solo studio album. To perform the music he had written, John would call upon the band he and Yoko formed a year prior, the Plastic Ono Band, specifically 2 of its members, longtime friend and collaborator Klaus Voormann on bass, and former bandmate Ringo Starr on drums. John would be at the center of the music on guitar, piano, and vocals. The sessions were recorded in September and October at Abbey Road Studios and produced by John, Yoko, and mixed by legendary producer Phil Spector, who had previously produced the Plastic Ono Band's Instant Karma the year before. On December 11th, 1970, John Lennon did something almost no rock star had dared to do. He tore down the myth of himself and showed what lied underneath. This isn't just an album, it's a confession. This is the story of John Lennon, Plastic Ono Band. We start with a singular emotional journey that begins with grief, moves to confession, and ends with catharsis. John begins the song by exploring his relationship with his mother and father. Mother, you had me, but I never had you. I wanted you, and you didn't want me. So I just gotta tell you, goodbye. John's relationship with his mother Julia was complex and changed throughout his youth. She surrendered custody of him in the summer of 1946 when John was only 5 years old. For most of his childhood and adolescence, John would live with his Aunt Mimi and Uncle George, who provided him a stable household. Not only was John estranged from his mother, but his father as well. Father, you left me, but I never left you. I needed you. You didn't need me. So I just gotta tell you, goodbye. John's father, Alfred, was a merchant seaman who had an inconsistent and distant relationship with John and Julia. He was almost always out at sea, leaving John and Julia for long periods of time. He planned to leave the family's hometown of Liverpool for New Zealand, while bringing John and possibly Julia with him. But when Julia intervened, Alfred gave John a choice: go with me or your mother. He initially chose Alfred, but ran back to Julia crying, telling her that he wanted them both. And this all happened when John was 5 years old. While both Julia and Alfred were somewhat complex in their actions toward John, neither acted as stable parental figures at this time, leading to built-up resentment that would materialize during John's primal scream therapy. When John was a teenager, he began to reconnect with his mother, visiting her and spending time getting to know her. She would leave a profound impact on him and inspire his love of music. But on July 15, 1958, Julia was struck by a car driven by an off-duty policeman, taking her away from John forever. With her untimely death, John could never have closure with that built-up resentment. But resentment and grief were not all that John wanted to express. "Children, don't do what I have done. I couldn't walk, and I tried to run." John is confessing and warning the future generation. He does not specify any faults or lessons, but says that he overestimated his abilities. And this openness about his own mistakes opens the door for John to atone for his perceived faults throughout both this album and the rest of his solo recording career. Now that his trauma and admission have been exclaimed, the release follows. "Mama don't go, Daddy come home." He repeats these words until he breaks down into heartbreaking screams. These exclamations are so emotionally powerful that they make you feel John's pain. And this profound connection between John and the audience is what makes this song, as well as the album, such a powerful experience. Following the raw turmoil of Mother, a calming guitar with a tremolo effect takes us by the hand and shows us that it's going to be alright. Hold on, John. John, hold on. It's going to be alright. You're going to win the fight. John assures himself that he'll be okay, but he needs to keep holding on. Hold on, Yoko. Yoko, hold on. It's going to be alright. You're going to make the flight. John comforts Yoko, assuring her that she's going to be alright, and that she also needs to keep holding on. He then turns the message from himself and Yoko to the world. Hold on, world. World, hold on. It's going to be alright. You're going to see the light. If we all hold on, then we can reach that light at the end of the tunnel. That is, if we can put aside our worldly distractions. In I Found Out, John begins to demolish his former image in a grungy, fuzz guitar-led, venomous fashion. He bluntly admonishes the distractions of the material world. Now that I showed you what I've been through, don't take nobody's word what you can do. There ain't no Jesus gonna come from the sky. Now that I found out, I know I can cry. John advises us to think for ourselves rather than accept other people's ideas blindly. The line about Jesus was especially controversial considering John's famous quote from 1966, "Christianity will go," Lennon said, according to Cleave's article. "It will vanish and shrink. I needn't argue about that. I'm right and I will be proved right. We're more popular than Jesus now. I don't know which will go first, rock and roll or Christianity." Jesus was all right, but his disciples were thick and ordinary. It's them twisting it that ruins it for me. This quote was heard out of context and led to a widespread boycott of the Beatles in America. When mentioning Christianity, John was referring to the Church of England, making a point that the Church of England had become antiquated and ineffective in spreading its message. When making remarks about Christianity and religion, such as in the lyrics to his song Imagine, he was not intending to criticize Jesus Christ, but rather religion as a social institution. The purpose of this verse in the song was not to put down Christianity, but rather to urge people to think for themselves. Some of you sitting there with your in your hand, don't get you nowhere, don't make you a man. I heard something about my ma and my pa. They didn't want me, so they made me a star. John introduces some risque language, the first to be boldly uttered by a Beatle in an official release. This signals that John had more freedom to say exactly what he wanted to say. The second part of the line directly attributes his parents' neglect to his road to stardom. And during that stardom, "I've seen through junkies. I've been through it all. I've seen religion from Jesus to Paul. Don't let them fool you with dope and cocaine. No one can harm you. Feel your own pain." John urges us not to be blinded by religious institutions that obscure the path towards God, or not to be blinded by drugs that sedate us and keep us incapacitated. Above all, John urges us to think. As soon as you're born, they make you feel small, by giving you no time instead of it all, till the pain is so big you feel nothing at all. A working-class hero is something to be. Hope is immediately crushed in the opening lyrics of this Dylan-esque diatribe. Paired with a stripped-back production, Working Class Hero follows in the footsteps of songs like North Country Blues and Masters of War. In these types of socially conscious songs, the focus is on both the system and how it affects individuals. They hurt you at home, and they hit you at school. They hate you if you're clever, and they despise a fool, till you're so f***ing crazy you can't follow the rules. The F-bomb is among the iconic moments throughout the album, for how shocking it was to hear both then as well as now. Following the example of I Found Out, Working Class Hero shows that John is now free to say anything he wants to. While writing, John was not intending to make the swear an integral moment in the song. It simply came out while writing and singing the lyrics. John sweared commonly behind the scenes, and in the past he would remove any swears that ended up on recording. Keep you doped with religion and sex and TV, and you think you're so clever and classless and free, but you're still peasants as far as I can see. Reinforcing the previous song's assertion, society is sedated. If we're all incapacitated, then nothing above us matters. There's room at the top, they are telling you still. But first you must learn how to smile as you kill, if you want to be like the folks on the hill. If this is the way to ascend, then maybe it's not even worth looking up. But there's another way. If you want to be a hero, well, just follow me. What is a working class hero? I believe we can answer this question by doing as the line says, following John. He was born in a working class household and culture. He was able to build his career through music, and this became what lifted him from his modest scenario. Rather than leaving the working class through betrayal and devious promises, he left the working class through the advancement of popular art culture. This is not to say that John Lennon was a perfect man or always did the right thing, but that his primary offering to the world was thoughtful and beautiful art. But in spite of this contribution, John is open about his struggles with fame and the world around him. People say we've got it made. Don't they know we're so afraid? Isolation. We're afraid to be alone. Everybody got to have a home. Isolation. Behind the outward rewards of fame and riches, John is still a human being with deep feelings, which are expressed musically with an emotional piano melody and contemplative rhythm. John had not only felt isolated emotionally, but externally. Since his days in the Quarrymen, John had never been without a band. With the dissolution of the Beatles, John had developed a profound relationship with Yoko. Over the last few years, the two became increasingly controversial due to their experimental art and John's decreasing interest in the Beatles projects. John and Yoko had been scrutinized and ridiculed by many in the press and the public, and the louder the backlash became, the more comfort they found in each other. Just a boy and a little girl, trying to change the whole wide world. The world is just a little town, everybody trying to put us down. John addresses these people, but not in the way we might expect. I don't expect you to understand after you've caused so much pain, but then again, you're not to blame. You're just a human, a victim of the insane. John recognizes the inborn cruelties of the human experience. These self-serving tendencies and willful blind spots often lead to callous behavior towards those we do not understand. To end, we are left with simple words, ominous in their bluntness. We're afraid of everyone, afraid of the sun. The sun will never disappear, but the world may not have many years. Isolation. On invitation, John's father Alfred visited him on his 30th birthday. Inspired by his primal scream therapy, which recently ended, John took out all of his frustrations on his dad. Alfred would later write about the events that took place on October 9, 1970. He launched into an account of his recent visit to America, and as the story unfolded, so the self-inflicted torture began to show in his face, and his voice rose to a scream as he likened himself to Jimi Hendrix and other pop stars who had recently departed from the scene, ending in a crescendo as he admitted he was bloody mad, insane, and due for an early demise. It seemed he had gone to America at great expense to have some kind of treatment through drugs, which enabled one to go back and relive from early childhood the happenings, which in his own case, he should have been happier to forget. I was now listening to the result of this treatment as he reviled his dead mother in unspeakable terms, referring also to the aunt who had brought him up in similar derogatory terms, as well as one or two of his closest friends. I sat through it all, completely stunned, hardly believing that this was the kind, considerate Beatle John Lennon talking to his father with such evil intensity. This was their final meeting. John, while pounding on the piano, repeatedly urges us to remember when we were young, a time when our heroes were infallible, a time when the world seemed so large, a time when people towered over us. He sings with both a frustration and a melancholy, the primary emotions he's so far reacted to his past with. Over a passionate refrain, he sings, "And don't feel sorry the way it's gone, and don't you worry about what you've done." Despite the title, John is advising us to accept what has happened in the past and move on, turning a backward-looking song into a forward-looking one. This hauntingly breathtaking composition features Phil Spector on piano and John on acoustic guitar. While simple, the performance is vulnerable and beautiful beyond words, perfectly suiting the words. Love is real, real is love. Love is feeling, feeling love. Love is wanting to be loved. Love is touch, touch is love. Love is reaching, reaching love. Love is asking to be loved. Love is you, you and me. Love is knowing we can be. Love is free, free is love. Love is living, living love. Love is needing to be loved. Deliberate in their clarity and directness, the lyrics reflect a heartfelt expression of love. The bluesy stomp of Well, Well, Well proves that John hasn't lost his rock edge. John's crunchy guitar riff doubles the vocal melody while the rhythm section settles into a deep groove. John describes mundane activities he and Yoko participated in while feeling nervous. "I took my loved one to the big field so we could watch the English sky. We both were nervous, feeling dizzy, and neither one of us knew just why." The kick drum and bass rhythm in the verses sound like a heartbeat, representing this anxiety. Later in the song, the band breaks into an extended chorus, and John screams with a passionate intensity, like he's recalling his primal therapy. The combination of these elements results in a hard-rocking number that showcases John's passion, snarl, and musical showmanship. Look at me. Who am I supposed to be? What am I supposed to be? Set against a contemplative acoustic guitar reminiscent of the complex beauty of his previous song, Julia, John poses these questions without receiving an answer. He is lost within his own mind, questioning who he is and who he is supposed to be. And these questions of identity turn into questions of action. Here I am. What am I supposed to do? What can I do for you? Throughout the song, he repeats the phrase, "Oh my love," at the end of the verses, referring to Yoko. Despite his lack of self, he is dedicated to Yoko, and believes that even when he does not know himself, she'll help him remember. John continues to ponder his identity. Who am I? Nobody knows but me. Nobody else can see. Just you and me. Who are we? Although he is still searching for who he is, he knows that only he can make that determination. But he trusts Yoko so much that only she can see the real him. This journey of self-reflection and discovery is performed beautifully, with soft flanging vocals and an introspective chord progression, reflecting John's pensive mind space. The following is a quote from Arthur Yanov. John rented a house in Bel Air, which was a very ritzy one in the area. We talked about things. He said, "What about God?" And I would go on and on about how people who have deep pain generally tend to believe in God, with fervency. And he said, "Oh, you mean God is a concept by which we measure our pain?" John asserts that God is a concept by which we measure our pain, initiating a declaration of his disbelief in myths and idols. Over the course of the album, John has deliberately dispelled the myth of himself, cracking himself open and seeing what's inside. But now he turns this outward and dispels what he would consider are myths and idols that many people believe in. He lists them directly and plainly. I don't believe in magic. I don't believe in I Ching. I don't believe in Bible. I don't believe in tarot. I don't believe in Hitler. I don't believe in Jesus. I don't believe in Kennedy. I don't believe in Buddha. I don't believe in mantra. I don't believe in Gita. I don't believe in yoga. I don't believe in kings. I don't believe in Elvis. I don't believe in Zimmerman. I don't believe in Beatles. I just believe in me. Yoko and me. And that's reality. At this moment, John has now cast out all of the wider world, and all of his past, and freed himself from the myth that had been constructed around him. He was no longer Lennon-McCartney, just Lennon. He was no longer a Beatle, just John. Now that he has started over, he addresses us as the audience and fans. The dream is over. What can I say? The dream is over. Yesterday. I was the dream weaver, but now I'm reborn. I was the walrus, but now I'm John. The mystique has been shattered, and the monolith of the Beatles has been torn down entirely. This grand statement is supported by the most full-sounding and confident performance on the album. The previous songs had been recorded simply, with a three-piece band, or two, or one in some cases. The minimalist nature of the music supports the atmosphere and lyrics, but with this song, the band is filled out with an additional member, friend and collaborator Billy Preston on grand piano. His addition adds a layer of beauty and grandiosity to the song, emphasizing the importance of this statement to John. Musically, the song mirrors the opener, Mother. The chord progression is completely different, but most of the elements of that song are present in God: the moderate tempo, piano lead, and passionate vocal. The pain of Mother has become the confidence of God. John looked towards the past in Mother, and in God he looks towards the future. And so, dear friends, you'll just have to carry on. The dream is over. With this tempestuous emotional journey at its end, we arrive at the heart of an album focused on examining John Lennon. With all of the layers exhaustively peeled back, we see John naked. Nothing left to hide. Nothing left to expel. Everything is simple. The monotone sing-song vocal delivery evoking an empty childhood nostalgia, the instrumentation, a simple acoustic strum, and the rough demo quality production. The childlike delivery and simplicity shows John returning to the trauma of his early boyhood, or a window into his psyche, the yearning of his inner child. John returns to the trauma that began the album. My mummy's dead. I can't get it through my head. Though it's been so many years, my mummy's dead. I can't explain. So much pain. I could never show it. My mummy's dead. Now that we've experienced the full album, there is one last aspect that I have not addressed: the name. The title John Lennon Plastic Ono Band is, of course, a self-titled album. However, the name Plastic Ono Band has a story behind it. In 1967, Yoko came up with the artistic concept. I was invited to do a show in Berlin. I thought it would be great to do a show where on the stage there would be a band, but instead of each member of the band being a human being, there would be plastic boxes with a mechanism or robot inside that would perform or play an instrument or a tape recording. A year later, when I explained this to John, he immediately got a piece of wood to use as a base and pasted up a band on the stage. He put a few plastic objects together: a cassette box, a paperweight, the tube from a record cleaning cylinder brush, and created a little plastic model and said, well, we should call our band Plastic Ono Band. That was the beginning of the Plastic Ono Band. The following year, when we recorded Give Peace a Chance, we thought, let's release it as a Plastic Ono Band single, because it wasn't just John and Yoko on the record, it was all the people with us in Montreal and the audience. We wanted everyone in the world to join us and sing the song to create world peace. The concept of Plastic Ono Band was, the message is the music, so everyone on the recording is in it, everyone listening to the recording is in it, everyone who sings the song is in it, you're in it, and everyone in the world is in it, making Plastic Ono Band the most musical and imaginative group in the world. John would add further context around the construction of the band. We made the band, it was physically plastic, transparent, like ghosts, a completely robot pop group. Plastic things with tape recorders in them. It played tapes and records like a giant jukebox. It even had a television. We hoped to go on tour with it. The first advert for the Plastic Ono Band was a page out of the English telephone book. I said, get me a page from the book. And it happened to be the Joneses. It says, you are the Plastic Ono Band. So we are the Plastic Ono Band, and the audience is the Plastic Ono Band. John would also tell of the public debut of the Plastic Ono Band. There was supposed to be a party for the Give Peace a Chance record, which was the first Plastic Ono Band record, but we'd had a car crash and we were up in a hospital, in Scotland, and couldn't come. So at the dance hall, Chelsea Town Hall in London, where they had the party for the Plastic Ono Band, we sent the Plastic Ono Band and the press came to meet the band, and the band was on stage, which was just these plastic machines that played the record, and a machine with a camera pointed at them showing them on the stage themselves. The press took pictures of it, and they all discussed the Plastic Ono Band. Yoko then explained how the name became the name for her and John's band. When we played at the Rock and Roll Revival show in Toronto, we were introduced onto the stage as Plastic Ono Band, and the name stuck. It was exciting for John because he felt he didn't need to live up to the Beatles' mystique. He could be anybody or perform anything, and we had total freedom and total communication. The name of the Plastic Ono Band represents three things: the future, through its unique and imaginative technology, personal freedom, because it allowed John to be free of being a member of the Beatles, and universality, because everyone in the world is welcome in the band. When understanding this, the title could be read as John Lennon, Future, Freedom, Universality, and so many other things, truly representing the limitless possibilities that lay ahead. John Lennon Plastic Ono Band is John Lennon facing himself, finding out what really mattered to him. Why did he do the things he did? What did he believe in? Due to the personal nature of the album, it could have become an album that only held personal meaning to John. However, the album turned into something larger than himself. John Lennon Plastic Ono Band is not about being a famous musician. It's about being human, and all the problems that come with it. Considering the heartache, the trauma, and the difficult discussions present in this album, why do so many, like myself, keep returning to this album? Beyond the fantastic music on display, the album shows John Lennon confronting himself, the world, and the nature of life itself. And when we listen to this album, it forces us to do the same for ourselves. When listening to Mother, we reflect on our own relationships with our mothers and fathers. When listening to Love, we examine our own experiences with love. And when listening to God, we think deeply about what it is in life that we truly value and worship. Hearing someone we admire wrestle with these complex ideas lets us know that we are not alone, and when we need to do the same, there is always a work of art that will help us and challenge us on our own journeys through life. John was looking into a mirror at his own soul, and soon realized the fundamental truths he discovered for himself was advice needed by everybody. Feel your own pain. Learn to cry. Believe in yourself. Love is real. It's gonna be alright. Yoko Ono, 1970.